soon as possible, and I call Daniel Johnston to open the debate for around about 7 minutes. Mr Johnston.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer, and thank you to all of those that have made it possible to bring forward this debate to the Chamber this afternoon. And I rise very mindful that this is, I think, the first time I've spoken on MESH, and I think what goes before me is, I think, the really tragic situation that many women have had to face over a number of years of debilitating pain and life-changing procedures from which they'll never truly recover. I also am very mindful and pay tribute to those that have gone before me in terms of raising this issue, particularly my former colleague Neil Finlay, whose work on this was truly outstanding, and indeed Jackson Carlaw, who have tirelessly campaigned on this issue. And the reason I bring this forward this afternoon is really quite simple. As I was approached by a constituent who, having undergone MESH treatment, and while grateful that there has been movement and progress, still has questions about the current status and situation. And I simply sought a members' debate because it is a means of inviting a minister to the Chamber so that we can put those questions and have these updates that are required. Because the simple reality is that while there is things that have been put in place, treatment made available, this is an issue that will never truly come to an end for those women that were implanted with MESH. And that we must not let this issue go quiet. We must continue to endeavour to provide that information and updates. The issues around MESH have been well discussed, but let me just very briefly restate the situation. In terms of approximately 40% of women who underwent transvaginal mesh treatment faced immediate physical complications. A further 40% had complications within 2 years. These complications range from leg, groin, abdomen, back to bowel issues, autoimmune disorders, neurological disorders. And this chronic pain, it is difficult to overstate the life-changing and debilitating consequences that has. And it's not just physical pain. My constituent has spoken of the impact that TVM has had on her mental health, from severe trust issues to post-traumatic stress disorders and panic attacks. And there's a real sense of mounting frustration that she and others have about the lack of clarity and information. But it's also the financial impact, reduction of working hours, giving up paid work, and indeed the financial impacts of being able to take up the care and treatment that they required. So to that end, I would like to ask a number of questions this afternoon. I'd hope that other members will as well. And I've spoken informally about the tenor and manner that I was attempting to convey through this. So to that end, my first question is around support for aftercare provision. The Scottish Government Fund ran for 2 years from July 2020 to June 2022 with £1 million set aside for those who suffer from the after effects of MESH, for purchasing self-care items like incontinence pads and undertaking travel. So can I ask how many women benefited from that fund and how much of that £1 million remains, and what will be done to extend any potential funding that women may require? My second question is regarding access to removal surgery. The recent contract to enable NHS patients to visit Dr. Veronicas in the United States and receive transvaginal mesh removal surgery is welcome, but there are key issues which require clarity. And I think first and foremost is the fact that in order to access this, many women are having to go back to the very facilities and the very physicians that actually perform this procedure on them. I think it's understandable that that is potentially hugely traumatic, and I think it's very difficult for those women to trust those individuals who carried out those procedures in the first place. So can I ask the Minister, first and foremost, how many women have actually been able to take up this offer and travel to the United States for surgery from Dr. Veronicas? But more particularly, would she acknowledge that there is a need to have a more sensitive and prudent approach to both the consultation and assessment for this procedure, in terms of having to go back to the places and the physicians that undertook the original treatment? Because ultimately, and this was the question that my constituent asked me to ask, how would she feel if she had to go back, or a family member had to go back to that person? And I think that's an understandable question to want to ask. Question 3 is about the reimbursement fund. So while there is a £20,000 fund available for those to seek this treatment, to get this treatment privately, because that's a reimbursement fund, unless you have that £20,000 available to you, that fund might as well not exist at all. So can I ask again, how many women have been able to use this? And will the government consider the impacts for those who cannot afford £20,000 and where reimbursement quite simply is inappropriate? Yes. I'd also like to ask a question about other medical devices, because this is not simply limited to transvaginal mesh. Devices such as Essure have also been used, devices which have either subsequently been found to cause debilitating side effects, pain, or indeed withdrawn from use altogether, have been used, and many people suffer from them. And I've been contacted with women who underwent Essure. So can I ask what work the Scottish Government has undertaken in order to identify any other issues such as Essure, what work it's undertaken to reach out to people that have been affected and indeed extend and provide treatment to them? Now, there are many other questions that I'm sure other members have. My time is coming to an end, but I do hope this is an opportunity for us to get updates and clarity. And I hope, and certainly I personally intend, to bring forward future motions or seek other opportunities to get that clarity, because I think that's our duty and our responsibility to the women who underwent these procedures and who have suffered, I think, in a way that I don't really pretend to be able to understand. And I think